Customers are full of surprises. That's one of the reasons why selling is so interesting, and why selling will always be an art rather than a science. Even an art allows room for a certain amount of training in technique. So today we're going to place you in 3 sales situations, all of which revolve around a surprise. In 2 of them, the salesman is suddenly faced with an obstacle. In the other, he spots an unexpected opening for a sale. In each instance, we'll turn the problem over to you to discuss among yourselves how you might handle it. The watt-hour meter is the subject of our first case, which takes place in the office of John Reardon, Superintendent of Utilities for a small municipal. Mr. Reardon is being visited by distributor salesman Walter Chamberlain. For a couple of years, Chamberlain has been getting all of Reardon's meter business almost as a matter of routine. But today, he's in for a surprise.
Sorry for the interruption, Walter. Go ahead.
Well, that's about it. Best fishing I've had in years.
I'd like to try it sometime.
Why don't you let me guide you up there?
Good enough. It'll have to wait, though, till things slow down a bit.
Say, seeing that meter reminded me, you haven't put in your order yet this quarter.
No, I haven't.
Your inventory must be running kind of low.
Yes, I guess it may be.
You want me to send over 3 or 4 boxes?
No, I really don't think so, Walter. You see, I'll probably be getting my meters somewhere else this time around.
Oh?
Walter, I like most of you salesmen who come in here. You're all nice guys. So I try to spread my business out, other things being equal.
I understand that, John. But as far as meters go, you've bought nothing but General Electric for almost 10 years now. How come the sudden switch?
Well, one of your competitors has been trying to sell me meters for most of those 10 years. I've always told him, I'll buy some from you when you can give me a meter as good as General Electric. Now, the brand he carries has gone over to a magnetic bearing, just like General Electric's. It's as simple as that.
Hold it. Almost 13 years ago, General Electric introduced the revolutionary magnetic suspension I-50 meter. Until last year, only GE offered this wanted design. Then, 3 competitors announced that they had switched over to magnetic bearing systems. GE no longer has this feature exclusively. The problem is as simple as that. Or is it? If the projectionist will turn us off, you can kick it around a while among yourselves. Now, let's see how Walter Chamberlain faces up to the new competitive situation.
John, I don't know which brand you're thinking of buying.
And I don't intend to tell you.
It doesn't particularly matter. I just wanted to point out that 2 out of the 3 brands that have gone over to magnetic bearings do not have magnetic suspension like General Electric's. They have magnetic repulsion. You might want to find out which kind you're getting.
Well, what's wrong with repulsion?
Well, I don't know the technical ins and outs of it, but as I understand it, GE played around with the repulsion idea and discarded it before coming out with a suspension system. There are a couple of other things you ought to think about, too.
Such as?
General Electric has been making meters with magnetic bearings for almost 13 years. These other, well, I don't like to call them Johnny-come-latelys.
Sure you don't.
Seriously, John, there is an important consideration here. It takes a while to work the bugs out of any new product. Other meter manufacturers can switch over to the principle that General Electric has been using all these years, but they still have a long way to go to match GE's record of proven reliability.
Well, you've got something there.
These manufacturers are all for magnetic bearings now. Think back a couple of years. What were they saying about the magnetic bearing then?
Well, as I remember, they were knocking it. But what's so strange about that? You wouldn't expect they'd be pushing it if they didn't have it, would you?
Of course not. The point is, who has the greater interest in the reliability of a design? The manufacturer who introduced it and perfected it over almost 13 years? Or the manufacturer who poo-pooed the idea at first and then was forced by customer preference to adopt it?
Now, Walter, I don't think the other brands are going to sabotage your design.
Just something to think about. And what about certification?
What about it?
As far as I know, General Electric is the only meter manufacturer that certifies its meters at the factory for accuracy and performance. It took me quite a while to convince you that you could put them on the line and save yourself the time of checking them. But once you started, it worked out right, didn't it?
It did. I have no complaints.
If I know you, you wouldn't have such faith in other meters until you had checked out a good number of them.
Well, it's a small matter to do that.
Yes, but an accumulation of small matters can make a pretty big pile of work. John, do you remember when you first started buying our meters? The Utility Commission required that you test all meters every 6 years. Then they relaxed the requirements so that you had to test all meters every 8 years. Then they extended the period to 10 years. And now the Commission is going along with the others that permits you to sample test one type instead of checking them all. That makes your life easier, doesn't it?
No question about it.
Isn't it true that a key factor in the acceptance of sample testing has been the proven reliability and the certification policy of GE meters?
Well, I'll grant you that was important, but other meters
Let me ask you this. Would you be content to just sample test other meters until you got to know them better? I'll lay odds you'd check out every blessed one you received, for a while anyway.
If I go on listening to you, Walter, you'll have me believing that any meter other than GE will blow up on the side of the house.
Well, I didn't mean to make it sound that negative. Actually, there are some good, positive reasons why the meters you have now are giving you such satisfactory service, and why you should stick with them. May I use this?
Help yourself.
This will take just a minute. Now, here's the kind of feature I'm talking about. Unitized construction. This keeps meter elements in perfect alignment and gives you long-term mechanical stability. And you run less risk of losing meter calibration. Or take these lightning relief gaps. Now, this is a new meter, but if you opened up one you have on the line, you'd probably find these surfaces here slightly pitted from lightning surges. The lightning relief gap in a GE meter makes it possible for anything over 5,000 volts to be bypassed to ground without affecting meter accuracy. These fixed damping magnets help calibration stability. They're die-cast to protect against knockdown due to lightning surges. Incidentally, you may remember these were all features that were scoffed at by our competitors when they first came out. But like magnetic bearings, the other brands have been adopting them, I notice.
Well, my meter stock is lower than it should be. How soon could you get 3 boxes to me?
I'll have them here this afternoon if you let me use your phone for a minute.
Oh, no need. I'm not that badly off. Get them to me by the end of the week. Say, about this fishing trip.
How are you fixed for sockets?
Okay. 73 boxes of sockets to match. Now, getting back to the fish.
It looks as though Walter Chamberlain has made a sale. And maybe he'll catch a few fish in the bargain. Walter Chamberlain was surprised by a sudden need to resell a product he had thought was thoroughly sold in with his customer. But he rebounded fast. You may have noticed there were 2 steps in his handling of the problem. First, he appealed to the conservative outlook that comes naturally to anybody charged with the responsibility of supplying such an important commodity as electric power. He raised some legitimate questions in his customer's mind about the wisdom of switching from a product with a long record of reliability to a relatively new product that has yet to prove itself. But Chamberlain did not leave the matter there. He went on a step further to make a positive case for the other features of the GE meter. Walter Chamberlain's story brings up another point worth noting. The need for staying up to date in your knowledge of your products, even those which already have wide acceptance by your customers. There's no telling when one of those customers may spring a surprise on you. Now let's take another case in point. The man with the cigarette is distributor salesman Ray White. He's making one of his regular calls on Peter Johnson, manager of an REC. Ray White's surprise is a pleasant one. He's about to be presented with an unexpected opening toward making a sale.
I know what it is.
What?
For an hour now, back at your office and here, I've been trying to figure out what makes you look so different today. It's the tie.
Oh, what's the matter? Did I tie it wrong?
No, it's fine. It's just that I've never seen you wear a bow tie before.
Well, to tell you the truth, I never have. My wife bought this one for me. She said I was getting in a rut. You really like it?
Gives a whole new lift to your personality. Your wife may be sorry when the girls start whistling at you on the street.
I don't think she has any worries. You know, I think I'm going to get me a couple more like this, though. My wife is probably right. You get set in one way of doing something, and you just go on and on for no good reason at all.
Sure, she's right. And you know something? You could apply what she says to business, too.
What do you mean?
Well, for instance, back at your office, you mentioned something about sectionalizing your line out to the quarry.
Yeah, we're going to three-phase the line to take care of some heavier motors they're putting in out there. My consultant tells me that I ought to sectionalize at the same time. He's coming down in a couple of weeks to go over it with me.
Will you be using reclosers in sectionalizing?
Sure. You got a better way of doing it?
No, but what kind of reclosers will you be using?
Same kind I've been using right along. Why?
Ever think of trying another kind? Say, General Electric?
Oh, Ray. I had some of those old GE FRs, and they gave me nothing but trouble. And when I put another kind in, the GE reclosers wouldn't even coordinate with them.
Uh-huh. And how long ago was that?
Oh, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago.
GE has had a new design for 5 years. And it will coordinate with the hydraulic reclosers you have on the line.
Maybe so, but I heard something at one of the regional meetings about trouble with GE reclosers. Water seeping in and contaminating the oil.
When was that meeting, Pete?
How should I know? I don't keep a diary.
Well, it must have been quite a while back, because I got a newsletter last week that says there hasn't been a single water complaint on any GE recloser manufactured in the last 3 years. Look, I'll bring the newsletter to show you next time I come down here.
You don't have to, Ray. I'll take your word for it. And if you tell me that GE reclosers are compatible with my other reclosers, I'll take your word for that, too. But what it boils down to is this. I'm completely happy with the kind of reclosers I'm buying now. So why should I change?
Hold it. The habit obstacle is easy to spot, difficult to overcome. With design difficulties now clearly a thing of the past, habit is the big problem you face in trying to sell the GE recloser. How are you handling it? Now let's see what Ray White does with the habit obstacle.
That's just the point I was getting to about the tie. Up until now, you've been happy with a four-in-hand tie, or no tie at all in the summer. But you didn't have to get unhappy to try a bow tie. And when you did, you found it gave you something.
What has this got to do with reclosers?
GE reclosers will give you something, too. Something you're not getting now.
What's that?
For one thing, a 3-year warranty. You get only 1 year now, right?
I guess so.
To me, the 3-year warranty GE gives on parts and workmanship would mean that much extra dependability you can expect. Look at it this way. How much does it cost you to send out a maintenance crew to do some work on a recloser?
Oh, about $40 to $50 a pole, I'd say. That's figuring labor and mileage and all the rest of it.
Suppose you could cut down on the average amount of maintenance required in a year.
Fine. Just how do I go about doing that?
Certain features of the GE design help you. For instance, the interrupter contacts are beefed up to resist pitting, and the contacts are designed to roll with each opening, like this. This movement spreads the wear evenly and presents a clean contact spot each time. These features help you get longer service before replacement. While we're on the subject of maintenance, how often do you have to change the oil in the reclosers you're using now?
Every year or so is what the instruction book says.
At $40 or $50 a shot, huh? They tell me that under the same operating conditions, a GE recloser needs new oil only once every 3 years.
How come the difference?
Well, the oil can't contaminate as fast in a GE recloser. GE has this special one-way seal that opens up to let the gas out of the unit and closes tight so that air and moisture can't get in. Darn it, I could show you in 2 seconds if I only had that cutaway unit that Curran uses.
Who's Curran?
Curran, Bill Curran, the GE sales engineer that I deal with. I introduced you to him at the statewide meeting last year.
Oh, yeah. The guy with all those stories.
That's him. Knows a million of them. Knows his business, too. Say, why don't I bring him along with me next time I come down here? He could give you the full details on GE reclosers much better than I can.
I don't want some guy coming in here and snowing me with a lot of technical gobbledygook.
He didn't try to snow you before, did he?
No, but...
Look, you said you had your consultant coming down here in a couple of weeks to talk about sectionalizing that line out to the quarry.
Uh-huh.
I could probably get Curran down here on the same day, and he could go over the job with both you and your consultant. You'd be getting 2 engineers for the price of 1. How does that sound to you?
Well, that'd be okay, I guess.
Think about it. I'll give you a call at the end of the week to confirm it. You've got nothing to lose. It may turn out like the tie. Once you've gone and done it, you may wonder why you never did it before.
Well, long-standing habits are not broken over a cup of coffee. But it looks as though Ray White has at least succeeded in opening his customer's mind. When you're facing the habit obstacle, that's the first step in making a sale. The wedge Ray used was the prospect of real benefits for the customer. A better warranty, easier, lower-cost maintenance. Breaking any habit requires effort of one sort or another for the person concerned. You have to offer him something in return to make the effort worthwhile. Another thing worth noting is how Ray used the service of his GE sales engineer. When you need technical backup, he's the man to call. Now, let's look in on our final case today. Jerry Thurlow is the kind of salesman who is always on call for his customers, even on his day off. Right now, he's talking to a co-op manager who has a problem.
Sure, we can take care of that without too much trouble, Milt. I'll call the warehouse today, and they'll have a shipment on the way to you at 8 o'clock Monday morning. No, it's no bother. I'm glad we're in a position to help you out. Well, I expect to be swinging around your way the end of next week. I'll let you know. Oh, hey, that reminds me. Did you get my quotation on those distribution transformers? I sent it to you at least 10 days ago. Oh, you did? Fine. Well, do you mind my asking why, Milt? The last time I talked to you, I had a definite impression that you were leaning our way. Or was I reading you wrong?
No, I'll have to admit that you were right about that. But one of your competitors came in with a bid about $1,500 lower than you.
Well, who was it? What did he bid?
Now, Jerry, you know I can't tell you things like that. But you know who else calls on me, and you know the market situation. So I think you can figure the rest out.
Yeah, I guess I can.
Look, why don't you send me a couple 100 pounds of wire and a dozen poles? I can always use them.
Milt, I'm glad to sell you hardware anytime. But I don't like to lose an order for transformers that I thought was practically a sure thing.
I really am sorry, Jerry. You're the kind of guy I like to throw all the business I can to. Who's the first one I call when I need help, like today? But this project we need the transformers for is one of the biggest we've ever handled. The board is looking over my shoulder all the way. I couldn't justify buying your transformers at $1,500 higher. Now, maybe if your price were a little closer...
I don't know as I'd want to cut our price, even if I thought I could. I'd just be creating a long-range problem for the sake of a single sale. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know what I can do.
Well, look, the difference of $1,500 over 150 transformers is only about 5% on each transformer.
Yeah, but the board looks at it as one nice lump sum. And that's quite a lump, $1,500.
Milt, I know how much confidence the board places in you, and...
That's because I'm always careful about being able to back up any recommendation I make. And in this case...
In other words, if you can first justify this in your own mind, you won't have much trouble justifying it to the board. Good. Now let me ask you something. On this bid you say is $1,500 lower than ours. Are you sure you're getting the same deal?
Same deal. Same transformers, rating for rating. They're just like yours.
Well, that's where you and I differ, Milt. And I'd like to discuss it with you before you make a commitment. Could I move up my visit with you a couple of days? Fine. I'll see you at 11 o'clock Monday morning.
While Jerry Thurlow is thinking about how he'll handle the price obstacle, we'll take a break so you can discuss how you would handle it. Jerry Thurlow put together his sales story, and now he's in the office of REC manager Milton Bradbury, bumping heads with the price obstacle.
I know it's only $10 a transformer. With the 2 or 3 that I usually buy, it wouldn't make too much difference. But this time I keep seeing 150 $10 bills in one big pile.
All right. Let's take $1,500 as a magic figure. One transformer failure could result in the loss of a lot more than $1,500.
How do you figure that? The most I could be out would be $200 or so. Plus maybe another $50 for labor.
That's all you'd lose, Milt. But how about your employer?
What do you mean?
Consider the farmer who's served by this defective transformer. Suppose it fails at 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, don't laugh. This could happen.
I'm laughing because you're so right. If a transformer's going to go, sure as shooting 3 in the morning is when it goes.
All right, then. The farmer is depending on that transformer to supply him with power for a brooder, a freezer, maybe a hay dryer. He might lose half his chicks. Most of what he has in the freezer could spoil. And without the hay dryer working, the farmer runs the chance of his barn going up in flames. All in all, he stands to lose a good deal more than $1,500.
It's possible, but the odds against it are pretty high, you know.
Put this farmer together with all the others who make up the co-op, and the odds come down. These people are your bosses, Milt. What do they pay you for? To declare a dividend by knocking down the price on some transformers? Or to provide them with dependable electric power 24 hours a day, 365 days a year?
I've never given the people around here anything but the best of service for 10 years.
Of course you haven't. So why are you willing to let them get less than the best on this order?
But the specs on these other transformers are exactly the same as GE transformers.
Only GE Permalex transformers have a...
I heard this story before, Jimmy.
But I don't think you were really listening.
I've heard it from the others, too. You call it Permalex, they call it extra loadability or something like that. It's all the same thing.
No, it isn't, Milt. Permalex transformers give you increased loadability without sacrificing life. You know, when you stop to think about it, you're really at the mercy of the transformer manufacturer.
How so?
If he gave you just the nameplate rating and no more, you'd be in trouble. You count on being able to overload any transformers you buy.
All manufacturers build in cushions.
But not the same amount of cushion. The industry standard allows overloads up to about 150% in rating with normal life expectancy. With Permalex transformers, you can load up to 170% of rated capacity with the same life expectancy.
You mean this stuff really makes a difference?
Permalex transformers have a brand new insulation system developed to increase loadability by keeping the insulation from breaking down as the operating temperature rises.
What does all this buy me?
A much greater margin of protection. A GE Permalex transformer can operate at a greater overload than an ordinary transformer without failing. In an emergency, you could put a severe overload on it without sacrificing so much life. Or in normal loading, you could get up to 5 times longer life.
The way the load is growing, I'd have to change it out for a bigger one long before it's ready to quit anyway.
Well, in that case, you might be able to keep your GE transformer on the line as much as a year longer, because you can load it up to 170% rated capacity, where you change out the ordinary transformer at 150%. With 150 transformers, that would probably more than make up your $1,500. You'd be reducing your total investment. In fact, if you look at your transformer investment over the years, you'll find that your total owning cost is now lower because of General Electric transformers.
What do you mean?
How much did you pay for transformers 5 years ago?
More, I guess. Prices were higher then.
They were. And one of the main reasons they've come down is that GE has come out with reductions, and competition has been forced to cut prices. Milt, I've pulled out some of your previous orders on transformers. I find the 10 kVA self-protected rating is your biggest number, right?
That's right. Why?
I just happen to have the figures on how GE has brought down the prices in this size over the last few years. For the self-protected 10 kVA unit, you were paying $260 in 1957 until December of that year, when GE announced a reduction to $248. And in 1958, General Electric's price came down to $237. You got a reduction to $221 in 1959. And in 1960, another to $211. That's a total reduction of $49 in less than 3 years. And it came in spite of the fact that most other costs were rising, such as the cost of materials and the cost of labor. They were not haphazard price cuts made at the expense of service and technological advance, but savings that resulted from the continuing program of product and manufacturing improvements. Over a period of years, your total transformer investment figures to be less if you buy General Electric. The record proves it. Then there are other reasons why General Electric transformers are a better buy for you, Milt. Does this other manufacturer have anything like GE's Mellolast finish to protect against outages? How about impulse testing on the production line? Does he have this? How about delivery?
How about lunch? It's about that time and I'm getting hungry.
I'd like to sell you some transformers first.
I suppose I won't get to eat any other way. Come on. Do I have to pay for your lunch, too?
Jerry Thurlow has saved an important order. He faced the price obstacle and overcame it the hard way. He probably could have made this one sale with less effort if he had offered to cut his price, but that would not have eliminated the obstacle. It would just have moved it over to the next sale, and the next, and the next. The key to Jerry's solution was treating this situation not as one single sale, but as a long-term proposition. And he made his presentation in a manner that appealed to Bradbury's ideas about himself and his job. It's surprising sometimes how completely the customer will respond to a logical story backed up by solid facts and aimed at his specific interests. And that was the point of this film. The customer is full of surprises, some of them pleasant, some a bit nerve-wracking. But surprises are a part of selling. There are very few surprises that will throw for a loss a salesman who knows his products as he should and who is prepared to practice a bit of customer psychology.